Wall calendar. Am I good to start?
Should be good to start. We good to start? Yeah.
Perfect. Fantastic. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Those of you who are here in person and those of you who are signing in online. Doing hybrid events is always a little bit of a gamble, but so far so good. We're going to have lots of time for your questions at the end. We'll be able to answer questions from people here in the room, but also for those of you who are signing on online, hello, you are able to type your questions into the chat and we'll be able to answer them more widely as well. Just before we get started, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge that SFU's Burnaby campus is on the unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Coquitlam peoples. For those of you who are going to be starting at SFU this fall, and for anyone who's already here, I'm going to take a moment to shout out a book called Decolonizing Methodologies by Linda Tuhiwai Smith. It's available for free in the SFU library online, and it is a fantastic resource for just learning about the histories of university in colonial practice and what we can do about that. So that is my takeaway for the day. To give you a sense of what's to come, you're going to hear a little bit about BPK and the different program options within it. Some of you might not have made up your mind quite yet, or maybe hearing about another one is going to draw your interest. We're also going to be having Sophie, our BPK advisor, run you through some of the really important resources to help you with course planning, since it's just around the corner, and give you a sense of what to expect for an internal transfer for, again, anyone who might not be in sciences or in BPK yet, as well as those of you interested in behavioral neuroscience, since it's not a direct entry program. We'll have a chance to hear a little bit about co-op and career offerings as well. And then we have one of our current students from the BPK Student Association, Sarah, who will be here as well. And last but not least, we're going to have a Q&A. So hopefully we can get through all of your questions today, but at the very end, you'll also get everyone's contact information. So if any questions come up after today, we are always here to help. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Sophie. Here you go. Oh, I think it was this one, but I truly already forgot what it was. One of the two.
So I know this program inside and out, but I've got my cheat sheets here just in case I miss out on any important.
Not quite on camera, unless you're like right over there. I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. So I've got my notes here just to make sure I don't miss anything important. You will be doing a lot of probably presentations in some of your classes and group work as well. And we also always say, don't read off your notes. So I will try not to read off my notes. But what I wanted to let you know today is that you have a great support team. We have a very challenging program. All three of our programs are really challenging. We also try to have lots of fun and there's lots of support. So did we go? Oh. I'm going in the wrong direction. So I'm Sophie Dunbar. I'm the academic advisor. We have Mila, who is back over there. Mila is our program assistant. Put your hand up, Mila. Yeah, so Mila is our program assistant. She's only started a little while ago. She's an SFU alumni. And we have Aidan Witty.
Morning, everyone.
Science Success Coordinator, we are in the BPK department, which is kind of that way, but this is Science Space and Aidan is located here. And we have Claire who did the introductions, who's located here as well. I also wanted to mention Colin. Colin is away on vacation right now, but Colin is also here and he's an associate advisor and just a wealth of resources. And I also want to shout out for Daisy, who is a co-op student in our department and was the person who did a lot of the work behind the scenes for this event today. So I wanted to make sure we acknowledge everybody here today. And let's see if I can get this going in the right direction. So you will be doing a lot of courses. Some are more theoretical. You're covering the theory behind what you'll be learning, but we also have a lot of hands-on labs. So this is our anatomy lab, which was renovated a few years ago. It's small, but it's amazing. Sorry. This is also in our anatomy lab. It's a life-size table, 3D table. It's like a 3D dissection table. So all of you will be completing a Bachelor of Science. and you will all be doing human anatomy and physiology. Those of you in BP and kin will be doing biomechanics and motor control. The people in behavioral neuroscience don't do the biomechanics. You'll be doing you'll be studying human movement, health and disease. You'll have lots of great opportunities to do research. We have an amazing co-op program. Actually, some of this might be repeated in the presentation, but if you look there, Student Research of the Month. Those of you online won't be able to see it, but Aidan is kind of responsible for making sure that we get some great projects in here, and we try to rotate them. So that is one of our BP students, the research project over there. One of the things I didn't mention also is you have the opportunity to do an international exchange if you wish. My daughter is in her 4th year here, and when she got into SFU, the first thing she said is, I want to go on an international exchange. She is actually just coming back from the University of Manchester. So, but lots of opportunities in Australia and in Europe, in Asia, lots of different places. So we do have 3 different majors. Kinesiology is our oldest major. You will be studying human structure, which is anatomy, and human function, physiology. And you will be studying health, movement, and disease. You'll be studying, it's more whole body than our BP degree. You'll be studying exercise, nutrition, rehabilitation, occupational ergonomics, and health behavior and promotion. You can complete our kin major with or without an active health and rehab concentration. Although the general program, which is without the concentration, offers students the greatest flexibility in tailoring their undergraduate degree, the concentration is our most popular degree. Our kin major is recognized by the BPK, which stands for the British Columbia Association of Kinesiologists. The reason why that's important is there are a number of jobs for kinesiologists, but a lot of employers want students to be registered with the BPK. And so if you complete our kin degree, you can apply to be registered with the BPK. Let me just check, make sure I haven't missed anything important. This is a great degree for students that are interested in professional schools. You can apply to medical school if you're interested, but it's particularly suited to those people that are interested in doing a master's of physical therapy or a master's of occupational therapy, especially because of the active health and rehab concentration. So we're going to move to our BP degree. You will be studying anatomy and physiology with this degree, but it is more cellular, more molecular. So because it is more cellular and more molecular, you will be doing some extra chemistry and extra MBB courses. It's great preparation. It's also great preparation for medical school, but also for dental school, optometry, pharmacy, and also the growing biotech industry. Behavioral neuroscience. So this is our newest degree. Behavioral neuroscience is it's BPK and psychology. So in this with this degree, you have an extra advisor. If you have questions about the psych side of your degree, there are advisors in the psychology department that will be happy to help you with that. And on the BPK side, I will be the advisor for that. But I tend to see students, because it is a Bachelor of Science, I have a good sense of both sides of the degree. And so you will probably come to me first. If it's about a psychology course in particular, probably best to go to the psychology advisor. This is also a great degree for professional schools. But if somebody said, I'm really interested in working with neurological disorders, patients with neurological disorders, like Parkinson's or Lou Gehrig's disease or something like that. Or if someone said, I'm interested in going on and doing further studies in neuroscience, like a master's or a PhD in neuroscience.
Okay, thank you, Sophie. Thanks so much. I'm going to stand on this side so I'm in camera. Thank you.
I was mistaken, by the way. You were already on camera.
Oh,
It was my mistake.
I'll
Sorry.
stay
Sophie.
So before I get into this slide, I just want to welcome you to SciSpace and let you know that this is a space that you can use next year when you come up here. It's not just for this info session. This is open to all science students or anyone who's even taking a science course. And frankly, any student can use it. It's a place to hang out, socialize. Some students will study here. There are board games. There's usually some music playing. So it's kind of meant to be a casual, relaxed place. And of course, you can access resources like myself and Colin, as Sophie mentioned. Sophie, of course, is the advisor specifically for the BPK program. But here you can access us as advisors as well. We can give you more of the general information about being a student at SFU. So back to the programs. So Sophie just ran through the 3 different majors within BPK, right? So those programs is what we are referring to when we say the word majors. You might be wondering, what is a major? So that's basically the 3 different programs. This is basically a subject of study that you're going to be focused on, and all your courses kind of align with that subject area. So the way that the courses are built or structured for your degree is that you have lower division courses and upper division courses. Lower division courses just refer to any course that is 100 or 200 level. You roughly do those in your first 2 years. It's not strict, but that's generally the way students do it. So for the majors, they'll be made up, especially for BPK. You're looking, welcome, you can have a seat anywhere. You're looking at, as you can see here, we listed off the courses you can expect in your lower division. Good to see a good wave. Come on in. So what you'll be expecting is basically your first year science courses. So things like biology, chemistry, math. MBB just refers to molecular biology and biochemistry, physics, and stats. So as Sophie mentioned, it is the BPK program is fairly science intensive, especially those first 2 years. Upper division refers to any courses that are 300 and 400 levels. So that's roughly your 3rd and 4th year, sometimes your 5th or even 6th year up here is when you typically are doing those. That is 44 to 45 units. So each course at SFU, the majority of courses are 3 units each. So for upper division courses, you're looking at about 15 courses, okay? Now there is an option to do an honors degree. Honors is essentially the same degree, but you are adding on some additional courses, and those are research-based courses, and that will make your degree, when you actually get your part of it, you'll have a Bachelor of Science majoring in kinesiology, for example, and it will designate you as honors student. Okay, and you would typically connect with a prof here and do some research, perhaps in their lab. And it's a really great way to get some research experience, but we'll talk more about research in a bit. There's something called WQB requirements. You might have heard about this if you've done the uni prep course, which is very helpful, by the way. So if you haven't, I do encourage you to do that when you get home. That's online on Canvas. WQB just refers to 3 different requirements. One is the writing requirement. Most students will get their writing requirement done through an English course. There are some other courses that fulfill the writing requirement, and that's all available online. Q just refers to quantitative. By virtue of doing a science degree, you have taken care of your Q courses. So don't worry about Q courses for yourself. And then B refers to breadth courses. So that's the opportunity to use your electives to take courses in areas outside of your main field of study. So breadth courses for a science student would refer to humanities courses and social science courses, okay? So you do 6 units of each. So that's basically 2 courses of social sciences courses and 2 of humanities, okay? And there is a list that will list all those courses that fulfill that designation. And there is another option for a minor. So I talked about the major. A minor is another field of study that you can add on to a major, okay? And it's a smaller field of study in terms of there's less courses that are required to fulfill a minor. It's easier to get into a minor in terms of internal transfer requirements. So there's different ways that you can use a minor if you want to. This is not mandatory, by the way, it's an option. So for you students here that are doing, for example, a kinesiology major, you can do a minor in something that's totally unrelated, or it could be very related. So we have students that do minors in health sciences, for example, But I've also seen students do a kinesiology major with a business minor because they had an interest in getting involved with business, but in a health and fitness aspect. So there's really interesting ways you can do that, and you can always talk to us as advisors to discuss that. Science also has one other option to note. This is called the general science double minor. So in this option, you can actually do 2 minors and still get a bachelor's degree. So welcome, you can just have a seat anywhere. So you would, for example, we'll take the kinesiology minor again. You can do the kin minor, which again has lesser courses to fulfill than major, and pick any other minor at the university. At the end of this, you would still get a bachelor's of science degree. So for those of you who are thinking about, applying to grad school or applying to any sort of professional school, typically the requirements for those types of schools are a bachelor's degree in anything. Okay, so this would fulfill that requirement to get a bachelor's degree. Okay, so I am going to hand back to Sophie, and she's going to help show you a very helpful page.
So I just wanted to add to a little bit of what Aidan said, and that I often get students coming and asking me, can I do a biomedical physiology major with a kinesiology minor? No. Can I do behavioral neuroscience with a psychology minor? No. And the reason for the no's is because there's a common core. And so there's too much overlap between, so you can't combine any courses within our department. But it's not unusual for somebody to do, who's a little weaker in the sciences, maybe to decide that they'll do a psychology major in a BA, psychology major in the Faculty of Arts with a kinesiology minor. So lots of really interesting combinations that you can do. So I wanted to, a lot of you have questions about, I've done the university prep course, and I'm still sitting there, oh my goodness, like, do I register in 4 courses? Do I take 3? Do I take 5? What should those courses be, etc.? So a lot of you will have the same questions, and we've tried to provide some resources just to help you out. But all of you will have slightly different backgrounds, so I can't just say to you all take exactly the same first term, but hopefully some of this will be useful. You can go back to it afterwards and have a look. So we're on the BPK website now. And once you're on the BPK website, you go to the undergraduate programs tab, and then current students, and there's forms and resources. Could we scroll up again, please? Are we on the graduate?
We're on the graduate.
Yeah, I think we're on the graduate instead of the undergrad, sorry. Perfect, there we are. So you will notice that they're organized by, so the first thing you can see is program planners and course maps. And we've separated them out into BP and KIN and BNU. So this is the kinesiology major program planner. It's one piece of paper. It's a fillable PDF. First side is your first and second year courses. The reverse side is your 3rd and 4th year courses. If there are changes in the calendar, we update these forms as well. You follow the calendar under which you were approved, or a future calendar if there are some changes that were made in a future calendar and those look more applicable to you. You just can't go backwards. So probably some of these forms will be updated in the next little while. And then the archived form, the other forms are archived. But I just wanted to explain a little bit about this. So if you meet the requirements on this form, you've met your degree requirements. Okay. And then, but if we could scroll up to the first page again, this is a bit confusing, the general electives and WQB requirements. So remember, Aidan was talking about 6 units of breath humanities, 6 units of breath social sciences. For those of you that are interested in medical school, UBC Medical School requires 6 units of English. Anything from English 111 to English 115, so that's English 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, is a breath humanities. They're also W. If you're not interested in medical school, you can do something like Education 100, which is also a breath humanities and a W. So like Aidan said, there's lots of breath humanities courses, lots of breath social science. But English 111, for instance, will satisfy breath humanities and also W. But a 3-unit course is always only worth 3 units. So if you're counting English 111 as your breath humanities, 3 units there. Next to the W, you would put English 111-0. But let's say that you didn't do physics 12 and you're doing physics 100. That physics 100 will count as a general elective for you on the line just below. If you're interested in applying for a master's of physical therapy, UBC requires 3 units of psychology, or you can substitute cognitive sciences 100. Why is that important? Intro Psych is a BSOS course. If you want to keep your options open to do PT maybe out east, they require 6 units of psychology. So if you did Psych 100 and Psych 102, you'd meet your 6 units of BSOS, and you would also meet the requirements for PT. Now, some of you may have done physics 12, but maybe you're missing chemistry 12. So then you will do Chem 111. Again, it will count as an elective for you. Now, some of you who are doing the active health and rehab concentration, this form, this section will look a little different. It will say CQPCA. Actually, I think in the future, CQPCA will be required for general as well, but your English and your psych courses will also satisfy CQPCA. So it'll satisfy 3 requirements, but it's only worth 3 units, not 9 units. Okay, but if you're deciding, I'm only interested in UBC, I don't want to go somewhere else, what can I do for another BSOS? Again, lots of options, but some people will do an introduction to criminology, for instance. So do explore other options. As well as this, we have a course map. So let's have a look at the course map for maybe the active health and rehab, just to one down, Lacey. Sorry. Sorry, up, but just below there. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So this is exactly the same information presented in a different way. But if you go and click, it's an interactive document. So if you go and click on Physics 101, this takes you to the calendar description for Physics 101. Why is this useful? Is a lot of students call me and say, I have Physics 12, but I can't register in Physics 101. This course has co-requisites. A co-requisite has to be completed either before or concurrently. Okay. And then the other reason why this is useful is if you click on the D100 section. So this is the fall calendar. This tells you that this course is running this fall. And if we keep scrolling down, it will tell you what topics are going to be covered. And then if you keep scrolling down, it'll actually tell you what your grading is going to be. And then below it will tell you what textbooks are required, et cetera, et cetera. So this is all from the course map document. And so we have one of these for all 3 of our majors. Let's just have a look and see what other documents we have there for you. Program approval. For those of you that are in the BNU intended program, you will have to do the internal transfer. And so what you need to do is you need to complete a program approval form by the applicable deadlines. I'm not going to go too much into that, but I just wanted you to know where you can get those forms. If we scroll down a little further, right there, you can see suggested first-year enrollments. And we have one for each of our degrees. These will probably be updated in the next few days, in the next week or so, but they're also a really useful document. It will give you a sample of term 1, 2, and 3, but it will also explain some of the substitutions and different things you can do. So I'm hoping that a lot of students will refer to those forms. Now, after you've looked at those forms, you may have some questions. By all means, reach out if you've got questions, okay? And you can reach out by using the advisor link to book an appointment, or you can send an email. If it's a relatively simple question, you can just fire off an email, use the contact the advisor button on our BPK website, or you can email BPKadvisor, all one word, @sfu.ca. And include your name and your student number. If you know what an advising transcript is, you should have, that's part of the SFU prep course. An advising transcript is really useful. I sometimes get emails, my name is Bob Brown and I want to get into BPK 110. Well, there may be many Bob Browns, so I can't. So your identifier is your student number. And if you've got questions about a course, we may offer a course at our Burnaby campus, our Surrey campus, online. So I need all of those details to help you in a timely fashion. If we scroll a bit further down, back on the forms page. If we go back to the forms page, please, Daisy. Yeah, and if we scroll a little further down. We have some general forms at the bottom there. Once some of you get into around third year, if you're interested in doing some research, you can do research through an honors, but you don't have to do a full honors, which is an additional 12 or 15 units. You can do what's called a directed studies. It's either a literature review or a hands-on in a lab. You find a professor that's willing to work with you. They're 3-unit courses. So you can do those along with your other courses. It's really nice to have some research experience when you're applying to professional schools. And so, as I said, if you don't want to extend your degree, a directed studies is a really nice way to get some of that hands-on research experience. Let me see what else. There are so many other resources available to you. There's the BPK peer mentorship program. There's science and math peer tutoring for first and second year courses. There's the Student Learning Commons. The Student Learning Commons puts on a whole bunch of workshops like university writing, how to write online exams, how to manage stress, all kinds of really useful. And both Colin, yes, but today Aidan can tell you a lot more about what the Student Learning Commons, the workshops they put on. Some are very specific to science, and often the ones that are specific to science might actually happen in this space here. What else have I not covered? There's health and counseling. It's free, it's confidential for students. So just make sure that you use all of the resources available to you to help you succeed. We also have a great career services center. It's actually for volunteer and career. Now I'm going to chat a little bit about the internal transfer process. This was the bit of the presentation we were the most worried about, just switching back and forth. And we thought, especially for the people that are over in Zoom, if it didn't work, it was going to, but so far so good, I think. No, everybody's okay on Zoom. So the internal transfer process is when students have to apply for program approval. If you are in the biomedical physiology major and you've decided that you want to be in kin, you can just let me know and I can transfer you. Or if vice versa, if you're in kin and you want to be in BP, you can let me know and I will transfer you, because the qualifications for both of those majors were the same. If you are interested in transferring to behavioral neuroscience, you have to do the internal transfer process. You have to complete the program approval form. We accept those forms 3 times a year. So the deadlines are Feb 1st, June 1st, and October 1st. So on the approval form, they will talk about set 1 and set 2 courses. So I just wanted to give you an example. So we've got a fictitious student here, Lee, and in their first term, Lee takes Biology 101, BPK 142, Chem 121, Math 154, and Physics 101. That's 17 units. I definitely don't recommend that. But that's all part of set 1. Okay, so Lee achieves a B in each course, which is equal to a GPA of 3.00. This means that they've completed all of the set 1 courses and they meet the minimum approval GPA. So they would submit an approval form by Feb 1st, and they would be approved in time for summer enrollment. So Raj takes Bioscience, this is example number 2. Raj takes Bioscience 101, Math 154, and because Raj didn't do Physics 12, takes Physics 100, which counts as a general elective. And then they decided that they're going to take an elective course. So a general elective or breadth humanities or breadth social sciences, or if somebody's heading towards BNU, they might take an intro psych course. So Psych 100 or 102, which counts towards BNU, but also is a BSOS. All right, so this equals 13 units in their first term. They achieve a B in each course. So they've got a GPA of 3, but they haven't completed all of the set 1 courses. So Raj is going to complete those set 1 courses in their second term. So for instance, they'll take BPK 142, Chem 121, and Physics 103, and another course, and then apply for approval if they meet the minimum GPA of 3, not including their elective courses. So if a student hasn't met the requirements after their second term, they may take additional courses that are relevant in their third term. Once you've got a minimum of 4, just going to go to the next slide. Once you've completed all of set 1 and you have a minimum of 4 courses from set 2, and you have an approval GPA of 2.7, you can apply to be approved. So you can't do some set 2 courses and then try and apply with just set 1. Any course that's part of the approval process gets looked at. So you can't pick and choose your best courses. We don't keep track of how many times you apply. So if you apply and you say, I'm pretty sure I've got a 2.7 GPA, and there's a GPA calculator that you can use, but let's say you're below, and you can apply again. Okay. Now this is important. We reserve seats in our BPK courses for our approved majors and minors. There's something called open enrollment. So everybody gets released to the system on their enrollment date. And then at a certain point, everyone's being released to the system. There's still a period where you can do some adding and dropping and swapping. At that point, a lot of courses that had reserves on them, those reserves get lifted. But for our BPK 3rd and 4th year courses, they're 100% reserved, and those reserves don't come off. So that basically means that for students who haven't been approved in their major or minor at that point, they can no longer take upper division BPK courses. And at that point, we suggest that you meet with an advisor, and there's so many different options that we can recommend that will still get you where you want to be. Okay, so that's, and maybe even before that point, you can come in and chat with an advisor. I think it's over to Ada.
Thank you. So maybe I can stand on this side. I'm still good. Okay. And I just want to follow up on something Sophie said there about internal transfer. So that's only applicable for students who are intended, right? So some of you are already directly admitted into your major, so you don't have to worry at all about internal transfer. If you're confused, like, am I directly admitted or am I intended? It will say that on your advising transcript. We'll send out a link after this session with instructions on how to download your advising transcript. And then you can see that. Of course, email us if you have any other questions. So we just want to take a few minutes just to talk about being prepared. Of course, it's a big transition coming into SFU. Many of you are coming from high school, probably most of you, some transferring from colleges. Regardless, it is a change in the way that the courses are run, the size of the lecture halls, just being on campus. So we definitely would encourage you to take it easy, especially the first term. Don't underestimate how heavy some of these, especially first year science courses, tend to have quite a bit of content. So there's a lot to study. And that's why Sophie was recommending not, 5 courses, although some people do take 5. It's not necessary to do 5, especially in your first term. We would recommend more like 3 or 4. Just to kind of ease yourself into the different style of learning here. SFU operates on what's called a tri-semester system. So basically we have 3 separate terms. They're all 4 months long. So we're currently in a term that's going to end in August. You're coming in September. That's the fall term. Fall goes from September to December. And then we'll have spring term, which is another 4 months. The nice thing about SFU's system is that it's very flexible. So you can take a fall term and then take the spring term off if you want, and then take courses in the summer, and you'll still have courses to take. So there is a lot of flexibility in how you kind of structure the timing of your courses, okay? Sophie already mentioned this, but prerequisites and co-requisites. Prerequisites just means a course that needs to be done before the one that you want to take, and this is all listed in the course outlines. So for example, we just listed 205 here because that one has quite a few prerequisites. So if you're looking to take 205, in a couple terms, just make sure that you see which courses need to be done beforehand so that you can plan out your current term and your next term.
So just one last thing, Aidan, I'm jumping in about 205 because almost all of your third year BPK courses require 205. So for students who, for some reason, don't end up getting their prerequisites completed in time for 205, there's 2 courses that you can register in at the third year level that don't require 205, and they have other prerequisites. But so sometimes we have students approaching us and saying, can I do 205 concurrently with 305? The answer is a definite no. So that's why we've listed 205 specifically, because that's such an important one. The prerequisites for 205 are Biology 101, Chem 281, Physics 101 and 102, but Chem 281 has prereqs of 121 and 122. So that's a really important one. So sorry to interrupt.
No worries. Yeah, no. So that's a course, like Sophie said, you're typically going to do that next year or maybe even later into your second year. So the grades at all your courses, you get letter grades in your courses. Just be aware that you would need a minimum of a C- in your required in your core courses in order to advance to the next course. And I'm going to just to be aware of, there is something called the continuance GPA. This is only in effect once you've reached 24 units. So this is really something to be aware of in your second year. If you are below a 2.5 GPA, only in your science courses, you will get a warning email sent from the advisor just to let you know. And just take this, if this happens, it's just an opportunity to connect with an advisor, to connect with us here in SciSpace, to see how things are going, look at ways to strategize how to improve. Because the following term, if you are still below a 2.5, you would be removed from the major. Now, this is not the end of the road. There is still an opportunity to transfer back in, and it's just the internal transfer process. But of course, before things get to that point, we would much prefer meeting with you for advising sessions and connecting you with resources. And that's very much why we're here in SciSpace and Sophie is available as your advisor. Repeats, you might hear this term and wonder, like, what is a repeat? What does that mean? Repeating is just doing a course again if you've taken it already. So at SFU, you have a limit of 5 repeats that you can do throughout your time at SFU. And for any one course, you can only repeat it once. If you, for some reason, need to do a course for a third time, that does require some special permission. And again, come talk to an advisor and we'll kind of guide you through that. It would involve coming up with a plan. We just wanted to ensure that you're going to be successful. We want to set you up for, being able to do the course. So as always, we really strongly recommend reach out for help early. It's so much easier to kind of get through these issues if you've seeked out help first, or if we've reached out to you. Definitely don't be afraid to talk with us. And just very briefly about co-op. Hopefully you've all heard of co-op before. Co-op is a pretty strong program at SFU in general. BPK actually has a very strong program for co-op in terms of the amount of support you get, but also the types of jobs that are offered. There's plenty of jobs. I'm very biased because I did 5 co-ops as a kin student, but I know for sure that it is something that a lot of students value. This is not necessary. This is totally an option. If you do co-op, you do take a term off of your studies and you would be working in a field that's related to what you're studying. Okay, and that's kind of the value of co-op, is getting this related work experience that really informs how you do your courses, might even inform the major that you want to do. For my example, I was just in general kin and was kind of thinking of physiotherapy. And then I did some ergonomics and human factors co-ops and really enjoyed it. And that kind of helped me to decide my courses when I came back. You can do, most of the co-ops are 4-month terms, so that's 1 semester. There are some rare co-ops that are 8 months or even 12 months. If you do 3 work terms, you do get a designation. So on your degree, it will list that you have the co-op designation for whatever that's worth, but it's more about the experience. And if you're an international student, you are still eligible to apply. Co-op also counts as full-time studies. Like if you have a requirement to be a full-time student, co-op fulfills that requirement. There's more information Of course, on this website, this will all be sent out afterwards. And every term at the beginning of the term, the BPK co-op department puts on an info session. So I highly recommend to just attend the session, ask any questions you have, and just learn about it early, because you want to, if you're interested in co-op, apply early, because it'll take you at least 2 terms before you actually start working, because you need to do some of the workshops, and then there's a seeking term where you're applying for jobs. And we have some contact information. Do you want me to talk through this? Yeah, we kind of talked through this already, but this will all be sent out later. I won't waste too much time, because I'd really like to invite Sarah up. Sarah is a current student, and she has many more interesting things to say than us. So Sarah, welcome up. And I don't know if you can use this. Oh, do you? Yeah, of course, you have so many slides. Yeah.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah. I just finished my 3rd year of biomedical physiology, so going into my 4th, very exciting. Yeah, and I'm here to talk to you about the BPK Student Association as well as BPK Peer Mentorship. So right now I'm a part of both, and within the BPKSA, the Student Association, I'm the Departmental Student Union Representative. So I attend meetings with representatives from all the other departments within the Faculty of Science, and we kind of share ideas, share events, and collaborate as well. And these are just some pictures of events we've had about. So the BPKSA, this is kind of our mission statement. We strive to make the department a better place for undergraduate students. We establish networks, friendships, and both social and academic groups that are easily accessible to undergrads. Our goal is to create pride in being a BPK student. So, we do host lots of events, even in the summer term. So these are some highlights from last summer. We did a movie night and we did a dodgeball event. That was our first time doing the dodgeball event. It has since become a tradition. So I think every term we're doing one, and we collaborate with other departments within science and outside of science. So a great way to meet people within the faculty and outside the faculty. We also hold events and seminars related to career and international opportunities. So we have many info nights for physiotherapy, occupational therapy, med school, lots of different options you can go from within BPK. And we have a special partnership with Austrek, so they're based out of Australia. So if you're thinking about doing graduate school in Australia, we have lots of info sessions about that with them. Oh. Okay. Oh God, you seem to be doing something wrong.
No, I don't think it's you. I think
Okay.
technology is just being wonky.
Okay.
There we go. Sorry.
Okay, so September, this is the time where we really try to engage students. So we have a few things. You'll see us at Clubs Day. I definitely recommend attending Clubs Day because there's so many clubs, and there's clubs that you wouldn't even know exist. Yeah, a great time. And then we also have merch. So this is our executive hoodie. If you would like to join the BPKSA, you can get one of these. If not, we have lots of other cool merch within BPK, and that happens in September. And we'll send out some emails as well, so you'll know about that. Our biggest event in September is BPK 101. So this is specifically for first-year students. What we do is we put you into little cohorts, and then you go on lab tours. You learn about BPK, which Sophie mentioned, the Association of Kinesiologists. You learn about co-op, scavenger hunt, campus tours. We have swag bags, free dinner. But the biggest part of it is meeting your other first-year students. So we do it specifically in September because you're going to be in classes with these people for the next 4 to 5 or maybe 6 years, depending what you do. So I really recommend this event to make friends in your program. So peer mentorship, this is a program specifically designed for first years or people who are transferring into the program. We have mentees and then an upper division, sometimes upper division mentor. So I started out when I first came to SFU, I was a mentee. I had an amazing mentor, and now I'm mentoring as well. So it's a great program to ease the transition into university or into the program. Your mentor is always there to meet with you in person, text you, answer emails, whatever you need, they're there. And then peer mentorship also holds events where you can connect with other mentees, other mentors. So this was our pumpkin carving event that we had last year. So how to get involved? So the BPKSA, we meet bi-weekly on Zoom, Thursdays at 7:30. So we just had a meeting yesterday. Our next one is going to be July 13th. For updates about what we do, you can check us out on Instagram at BPKSA_SFU. And that's where you'll get info session posters and all the stuff I just talked about. And then for peer mentorship, if you'd like to apply to be a mentee, you can look out for applications on their Instagram, SFU BPK PM. So now I just want to take this time to talk about my kind of journey as a student here. So like I said, I just finished my 3rd year of biomedical physiology, but I took advantage of everything that everyone has mentioned up until now. So I've done 2 co-op terms. I was personal training out in Falls Creek, which was really cool. And now I'm still personal training. I actually work at the SFU gym. If you come there, it's free for students, just so you know. Also, I'm doing research right now. So Aiden mentioned we have Student Research of the Month. Research is typically seen as something that you do kind of if you're doing an honors or if you're doing like graduate school, but it is possible to do it as an undergrad. There's many different ways to do that. You can do that within co-op, you can do that within directed studies. And there's a 3rd one that I'm actually doing. It's called the USRA, so Undergraduate Student Research Award. Definitely apply for that. You get paid to do research. It's amazing. Yeah. And also, my biggest piece of advice, like coming into university, is to put yourself in many different places. So yes, you're a BPK student, yes, you're a science student, but the university has so many other things to offer. Clubs, we have Greek life, we have so many different things. So the lessons you learn inside the classroom are one thing, but the lessons you learn outside the classroom, in my opinion, are a little bit more important. So, yeah, that's me. My last thing is look out for BPK 101 and Clubs Day in September. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sarah. Perfect. And if I can have, you can stay up here, and if we can have Sophie and Aiden join us. I think, Sophie, if you come, I think we're all on camera. If you come here, we shuffle down a little. Is Sophie on camera? Let us know if she's in the sweet box. We're good? Fantastic. We're going to open things up for a Q&A. We've got folks in the room, but also folks online. So perhaps I'll start with a question in the room and we can just go back and forth, and Daisy and Mila will help us get the online questions, but I'll open up the floor to any questions for those of you in the room.
For the BPK 101, so you said in September, it's like the beginning of September, or like?
I think it's usually the 2nd-ish week. You'll hear lots of information about it on our Instagram. We'll send you emails. You'll definitely know about it.
Yeah. I know that's a good point in regards to emails too. Now be in the habit, now that you have an SFU email, of checking that one, because that's the one that almost everything from departments and DSUs is going to go to now. Right.
And we do try not to send out too many emails from BPK, because we had some complaints from students. So we do have a student digest, which is a weekly newsletter. It's an online newsletter. It's on our website, but we send out 1 email on Mondays. I think it goes out Monday morning. And basically it's just a little, these things have been covered in this one, and you can ignore it if you want, or you can look at it and say, I'm not interested in this. This sounds interesting. So I do actually recommend that you try and pay attention, because if there's a volunteer position or a paid position, or if a particular course is coming up that requires a criminal records check, I'll remind you ahead of time. All kinds of useful information. So it's one way for us to avoid some of the emails is to have the student digest. We also have Instagram, I think. What do we have, Daisy? Tell me. What are all the social media accounts that we have?
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Yeah, so those ones are really nice because it's just a little snippet, right? So if you do get an email from the BPK advisor email, pay attention.
All right, let's take a question from the online group.
How is the presentation going to be shared? Is it over email?
Great question. In case anyone didn't hear that, how's the presentation going to be shared? We'll send a follow-up email to registrants of this event. So if you RSVP'd, you will get it. That includes, I believe we're going to include the slides as well as all of the links that we've been showing on screen and populating in the chat. So we'll send it by email to all of the registrants. But if for any reason, it gets lost in the ether and you don't get it, perhaps I'll actually just go back to have our contact info up. You can follow up with any of us as well. All right, let's do another question from the room.
Just, and one last thing, I think in the past, we've put it up somewhere on our website, right?
Yes.
So that might be another, if you, let's say, 3 months from now or something like that, you want to find it again, it should be on the website as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
For some of the core courses, like for first years, the prerequisites are like pre-calculus 12 with an A. What if you haven't gotten your results back yet?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you're still waiting on a high school or college grade to meet a prerequisite, when you go to enroll, typically the system should still let you enroll. However, there is a validation period that happens at the beginning of the fall. That's where they look and see your final grade to make sure you're still eligible to be taking that class. If you're no longer eligible to take a class, you'll be contacted and then removed from the class. So you'll know your final grades a little sooner than that. So it's good to update them.
Just that's during the regular enrollment for university courses, but it doesn't apply. Some of yours may still be waiting for IB and AP. So if you're waiting for IB or AP, the system might actually prevent you from registering in a course. But typically we can chat and we can try and figure out, we can still get you a relevant course load. And then if it comes in on time, remember I said there was a period of time where you can actually do some adding and swapping and dropping. You can make some changes there. And then if not, no problems in your second term, you'll be able to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And for anyone who does have issues with prerequisite grades or transfer credits, especially transfer credits, whether that's college transfer credits or AP or IB transfer credits, I'm usually your person along with the admissions office. Great. Let's take another question from online.
Is it possible to graduate in 4 years if you only take 12 credits for your first term?
Great question. Is it possible to graduate in 4 years if you're only taking 12 credits a term? So your whole degree is 120 credits. So if you're doing 12 credits a term, that's going to mean 10 credits. So probably about 5 years. But we do have those summer semesters. So some students do go to school all year round. That is not necessarily my recommendation. I do think those breaks are healthy and important. So while it is very possible to finish in 4 years, I think all of us would say, really feel free to take more time than that. You're never going to have more opportunities thrown at you than you are in university, like getting involved with things like the BPKSA, doing co-op, doing research opportunities. That's all going to help with your career afterwards. So while yes, you can finish in the 4 years, I think some breathing room is valuable. Anything anyone wants to add?
I was just going to say, give or take, and across the university, 5 years is about the average. So don't think that you're the only one taking 5 years and everybody else is going to get done in 4 or 4.5 or something like that. So you can get it done in 4, again, by taking 1 or 2 courses in the summer, depending on how many you took in the fall and spring. But there are so many opportunities, and as far as I know, a lot of students will sometimes say to me, if I've taken 5 years to do my degree, will that affect my applications to professional schools? I don't think that they're looking whether you did it in 4 or 5. Some professional schools want to see a certain number of terms of full time, and typically that's 15. But you can fit that in partway through your degree.
And I'll also add, it's pretty normal for students to start with maybe 3 or 4 classes a term. And as they just get more accustomed to the pace of university, maybe up that number of courses as well. All right, let's take another question from the room. These are great questions so far. Yeah.
If I do co-op, will that extend the time that I need to complete my degree?
Yeah, let's ask our co-op king Aiden to answer that question.
I mean, full disclosure is 6 years here, but I also did 5 work terms. 2 of them were 8-month terms. So yeah, because you're taking a term off of courses to work, that does extend your degree a little bit. Again, it depends on how many terms you do, how long those terms are. It is manageable, and that's something we can talk to you about when we're looking at like course planning. Is, I mean, some students will kind of have an idea of how many co-op terms they want to do. We can also, I mean, just sorry, one thing back to the co-op. There is potential, very few, but there are some part-time co-ops where students have done a course while doing part-time co-op. So it's not strictly no courses, but most students, if you're on a co-op term, you're typically there just to be involved in that experience and just immerse yourself in that. So yeah, it does extend your degree a little bit. How much, it depends on how many terms you're going to do. So
I just want to add something about how important co-op is. A lot of our students who do a co-op towards the end of their degree, they actually have a job before they graduate. Because if you're a senior student and you're working someplace and they love you, they'll say, what are your plans after you graduate? Because we want to keep you. So that's really nice. And you can get some great reference letters from your co-op supervisors. And to go back to a lot of things like directed studies and research, those things, I know I'm sort of jumping all over the place, but those are also great because you're going to need reference letters if you're applying to professional schools or research masters. And so it's nice if you've done a directed studies or an honors or a USRA, or even if you've done a specialized fourth year course where you might go from a huge 120 students in the classroom to maybe 35. If you've developed a relationship with your professor in those smaller specialized courses, you can approach them for reference letters. So, all of these experiences enhance your experience as a student, but there's also other positives in there.
All right, let's take another question from the online group.
I recently learned about the calculus readiness test. If we took pre-calculus 12, do we still need to take this test?
Yes, so the calculus readiness test, I can speak to it, but I think actually Sophie or Aiden would probably be more qualified, but either of you have strong feelings about who answers that?
Go ahead, even if you,
So yeah, there is a calculus readiness test. The math department runs this. It's just a way of you assessing if you're ready to take Calc 1. We can provide some information, but it's also on the math website. There is a date that they actually have where you can come up and write it. You can do a practice actually online. So just to kind of prepare for it and to know like what that's about. Having done it, I think it depends on your grade in pre-calc 12, but if you look at the course outline for math 151 in your case, it'll tell you exactly what grades you need and what courses you need. Again, if you have more questions about that, feel free to reach out to us or definitely check out the math website because they have a very good description of what's involved with that pre-calc test.
And just to go back to math, because you're in life sciences, we recommend you do math 154, but you can do math 150, 151, or 154. And math has a great graphic, which basically explains the difference between math 150, 151, and 154. 154 is for life sciences, so that means BPK, biology, molecular biology, and biochemistry. The 150 is typically filled with engineers and computer scientists. Math 151 is typically filled with physicists and mathematicians. And so therefore the examples are going to be geared to whoever is in that classroom. But again, there's a really nice graphic on the website. And the other thing about the math readiness test is some of you might have gone to a school where math and English, you took it all year round. But some of you may have gone to a school where you might have done math. Maybe it feels like it's a year ago now. And you're going, I did pretty well in math, but it feels like it was a long time ago. And I don't know how much I remembered of what I learned. Math readiness test may just be a way for you to take it and go, yeah, I remembered all this went, and then, oh, I've got a bit of a gap here or something. So yeah, use all of those resources to be really well prepared.
Another question,
Is the math readiness test required for math 154, or if we took calculus and pre-calculus, would that still be and got A's?
math readiness test is not mandatory, I believe. You can
Okay.
decide your math course based on your grade 12 pre-calculus grade, but it's a useful tool.
I'll give you another example. I can't remember what the prerequisite is in terms of if it's a C- or C, because for some of the high school courses, they're actually higher than the norm at university. But sometimes I'll get a student who says, well, it says a B and a B is 75. I'm not sure what percentage is from high school. And the student might say, I just came under that. I had 74. So does it mean I really can't do the next level math? I can't do math 154. Well, the system will be strict because it's just coding in the system, right? So if it's looking for a B and a student has a B-, it won't allow it. But if you're thinking, I had personal things going on and I'm pretty sure my grade is not reflective, you should reach out to the math advisor. And that's when the math advisor might say, take that readiness test. And if you do really, really well on the readiness test, the math advisor can actually allow you to enroll in the next level up, right? But if you took pre-calc and you took calc and you had A's, no worries. You don't, the math readiness test is for people that are uncertain or who didn't quite get the grade that they needed.
I just want to be cognizant of the time. We're right at
Yeah.
11:30, and I know some people might need to slip out. So if that includes anyone online or anyone here in the room, it is no hard feelings if you need to sneak out. We'll keep answering questions for a bit. I just want to give that invitation for anyone who does need to head out to not feel awkward about it. It's totally fine. Let's take another question from online.
I'm a behavioral neuroscience intended major, so my advisors are student services academic advisors, but I would like to talk to someone focused on behavioral neuroscience. Is there anyone I can contact?
Yeah. So for anyone who's interested in behavioral neuroscience, since you're not in BPK yet, you're not going to have access to Sophie on Advisor Link. So it would typically be folks like myself, Aiden, or Colin, all of our contact info up here, or our colleague Nadia can also help as well. So if you are behavioral neuroscience intended or not in the faculty of science yet, any of us four are available to you. And if we need to rope in Sophie at that point, we will, but typically the internal transfer stuff we can all help with.
And just to add on to what Claire said, how do you reach us? Because on Advisor Link, we mentioned Advisor Link, which is just the way that you book appointments with advisors. If you're intended, right now, you're just seeing those student services advisors, like the student mentioned. If you would like to be us to be added to your success team, just send us an email. Okay, and then we'll add ourselves to your success team, and then you can book appointments with us on the system, which hopefully is easier and maybe reduces one of the barriers. Otherwise, email us and we can also set up an appointment that way through email, but you won't initially have us on your Advisor Link success team, but we can add ourselves.
Yes.
So please reach out.
Except for me, since I'm technically recruitment, but
Right.
we'll just email.
Are most co-ops done locally or can you also do them internationally?
International.
Totally. Co-ops can be local to the Vancouver area. They can be in other parts of BC, other parts of Canada, and international. My favorite, I go back to this example all the time, even though she was a student when I was a student, so it was a long time ago. But one of the BPK students did hers with the Canadian Space Agency in Quebec, doing like exercise routines for astronauts. So rad. Not every co-op is that cool, but lots are pretty cool. So they can be all over.
And we've had some students who did an international co-op overseas, and they basically worked in a hospital in I can't remember exactly where they were, but either like somewhere in India or in Asia or something like that. And it was an amazing experience because you wouldn't be able to get that kind of an experience doing a co-op here, where they were actually involved in they were able to watch some surgeries, and I mean, it's just some incredible experiences. Yeah.
Sorry, do you refer, I know your co-ops, I think have been more local, but do you have any examples from your peers?
I don't know if field school is.
Oh, you can talk about field school.
Yeah.
Maybe just give a quick explainer on field school.
Don't exactly know what it is, but
Field school is like a group of SFU students and an SFU professor who, instead of coming up to campus for their class, do it somewhere else.
okay, yes, so I have a couple friends doing this right now. They're with NATO doing something. So they're going all across Europe. Yeah, and they're like seeing all these really cool meetings or doing stuff at the UN. Yeah,
Super.
I'm very jealous.
There's a really cool field school just in Costa Rica. They study sloths. That's a cute one.
Amazing.
I know,
Yeah.
so adorable.
Sophie also mentioned exchange, international exchange. So that's another way to go overseas. There's a whole network of universities in other countries that SFU has relationships with. But the international co-op is a great way to kind of experience the same thing because you get to live and work overseas. I did an 8-month term in the States. So I was working for an ergonomics consulting company in California and Michigan. So the BPK co-op handles everything. The visa is taken care of. A lot of things are kind of handled, which is a really great way of doing it because you wouldn't easily get access to a visa to work overseas, right? If you tried to do it by yourself. But because it's an established program, they have these set up. They've got a network already. So I definitely recommend take advantage of it if you see one that you like. Yeah.
And the thing about co-op is once you've signed up for co-op, you will be listed as being in a BPK co-op or a BPK co-op student. But that doesn't mean that you can't apply for a co-op in another department or another faculty. Those jobs will be available. You'll be able to see what jobs are available. My daughter's in the Faculty of Environment doing a major and a minor in business. And she actually did a communications co-op because downtown, because they wanted somebody who could write really well. And so, you know, it wasn't Faculty of Environment or business, right? But so just as long as you meet the criteria set by the employer, so you can apply across department and across faculties.
Let's take another question from the online group.
When will we expect to hear requirements for SFU's med school?
The med school. Still very much a nebulous shape, but for those of you who might not be aware, SFU is getting a med school. The date I've heard thrown around is 2026. That feels a little soon to me. I personally think it's going to take longer, but that's currently what we're hearing. Right now, they are not at the phase where they're releasing the admission requirements for the med school. So that's still to be determined. However, I would expect them to be in line with other Canadian medical schools. That means they're going to be looking for mostly first year and some second year biology, a little calculus, a little chemistry, maybe some physics, maybe a little psych, maybe a little anatomy, little genetics.
Let's back up on that.
Sorry.
UBC Med School and a number of the other ones across Canada. What Claire just said is really relevant. Those courses are great preparation because they're great preparation for the MCAT. But UBC requirement now for med school is 90 units towards a 4-year degree in any department or any faculty. So the only requirements they have is 6 units of English. So you could have a psychology major, which is in the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, a BA. So you do not have to have a BSc degree. You never did need a BSc degree. In the past, you could have a business or a degree in anything else, but you needed about 1.5 years of general sciences. I still think that 1.5 years of general sciences is great preparation. It's not necessary. They say they will teach you the sciences that you need. I find that amazing, but so, you know, that's why am I telling you this? Because that program that Aidan was talking about, that Bachelor of General Science, double minor, one of your minors, both minors can be in the Faculty of Science, or only one minor has to be in the Faculty of Science. So you can combine all kinds of interesting things. And if you've got research experience, and if you've got great reference letters, and if you do well on the MCAT. So again, all of these opportunities, it's actually not required to graduate with a Bachelor of Science. And if you go to the UBC website, the UBC Medical School has a website where they have a little table and they will put, we had 800 applications. I'm making up these numbers, but we had 800 applications. We took 120 or 150. And this is the breakdown of where these students, where these applicants came from. So they'll break it down. You'll still see it's, like Claire said, it's primarily BSc.
It's mostly science students.
Right, but you will see other stuff. Yeah.
I'll also add, so for the SFU Med School, that again, still very much in development, but one thing we do know about it is it's meant to really help address the family medicine crisis in British Columbia. So from what we're understanding, and perhaps the shape of it will change, but it'll be particularly suited to folks who are interested in getting into family medicine or other types of community-based medicine. It's not necessarily going to be for people who want to go into like orthopedic surgery or something like that. That sort of specialized program is still going to be at other sorts of med schools.
I think it's to serve underrepresented
Communities.
Yeah,
We're very excited for it. A bunch of our colleagues have been seconded to work on it. So we know it's happening, but
Yeah.
we'll see when. Let's take another question from the room. Yeah, go ahead.
For the courses at Surrey, it said that you have to be just listed as a Surrey student to get priority into those courses. How do we know if you're registered as a Surrey student or not?
Yeah, so it would have been on your application form, but even if you didn't apply specifically stating you would like to take your courses in Surrey, it's not too late. We can move you over. You can send me an email, or actually Nadia specifically, Nadia Williams. We can have you marked as a Surrey campus student. That means that when it comes to course enrollment, you'll be able to access those classes that have holds on them for Surrey specific students. If anyone is worried about, oh, I never said I was a Burnaby student, don't worry, Burnaby is the default. If you're not specifically a Surrey student, you're just a Burnaby student, and there is no priority for Burnaby. It's the same for everyone.
And if there's still spaces in courses in Surrey, after the Surrey students have had a chance to register for those courses, they open up to other students.
Let's take another question online.
Being that UBC Med School requires 6 units of English, does that mean we have the entire length of our degree to complete them?
Yes, so for those sorts of requirements, not only for medical schools, but for any types of professional programs, typically they can be done at any point along the way in your degree. I personally don't recommend saving those sorts of things all for the end. I think it's generally a good idea to spread them out, but it's up to each student. Another question from the room.
For IB grades, how is it converted to like AOPs?
Yeah, so for anyone who did an IB, did you do the full diploma? Full diploma, so full IB diploma students, you're gonna get 30 transferable credits. Within those 30 credits, based on your higher level courses, depending on your score, you can also get some more specific credit. I can get into a lot of minute details. So what I'm actually going to recommend is email me. I will explain your transfer credits to you. I'm the science_recruiter one here. But generally, yes, IB students, you're getting transferable credits. Even if anyone did partial IB, so IB certificate or just a couple courses, you can get IB transfer credits for the HL courses as well. And then on a similar note, any AP credits, advanced placement credits with a score of a 4 or a 5. But for an IB diploma holder like yourself, a score of 4 or higher for the most part. One exception to that is math. They want like a 6 on the math for the credits.
If you go into sfu.ca, and I have to do this sometimes when I'm advising because it's not my area of expertise, but when students ask me about AP and IB, I just go into sfu.ca and in the search box, I just type in AP and it brings up a really nice table. And so it'll say if you got a 5, and it'll tell you, it'll give you a percentage.
It's like a 7 is 96, a 6.
Yeah, so it'll give you, there's a lot of that useful information. And I say to students, use that. And it's, my daughters will say, Mom, you're stating the obvious. But if you're sitting there going, I'd really like to reach the history advisor, sfu.ca, history advisor.
Every single thing I have found on Google, for the entire more than 10 years I worked at SFU, I just use Google. It's the easiest way to do
You're right, you
it.
don't even have to go into sfu.ca.
SFU, name of the thing you're looking for, every time, every single time. Let's take another question from online.
Is there a presentation or demo for us to follow when we're choosing our courses?
Oh, yes, and I'm not sure if you guys can find the link to pop in there, but if you, again, Google SFU enrollment, or SFU My Schedule. It has, it's about a 7-minute long video that walks you through. There's also some still images. That is also included in that university prep course that we've been mentioning. I believe it's in step 2 of university prep that walks you through like the exact buttons that you are pressing when you're enrolling in your classes. It gets into that amount of detail.
And just remember, some courses are a lecture and you'll be in the lecture hall with maybe 120 or 300 students. And then within that, you may have to choose a lab to go with that. And that's where you're broken into much smaller groups, or it may be a tutorial. And so you get to pick which, it's called an associated class. I think you don't really need to know the terminology, but a lot of times I think when you're looking at your course card, the information might be a little bit confusing. But if a course has a lecture and a lab, unless it's an open lab like in math, your first year math 154, then you don't need to register, I don't think, for the open lab. For the other ones though, there may be, you've got your lecture and then there may be 15 groups or 20 groups, and you can choose your labs that way. Choose a time that works for you. In case that one is already full, make sure you have a backup plan. And the same thing where there's a tutorial.
Great, thank you. Let's do maybe one more question from the room, one more online, and then we'll get things all wrapped up. Go ahead.
Based on the information for like the lab and like tutorial separately, do you have to register for them separately, or is it just the time that shows in the course?
Great question. When you go to enroll in a class, the system will make you select all the required components. So it's not going to be, if a course requires a lecture and a lab, it's not going to be possible to only register for the lecture or only for the lab. It will make you pick both to fit in your schedule. So if there is a required component, the system will force you to pick one.